Welcome to Paranormal Science Lab Live. We are coming to you from the beautiful John Weiss house in Joplin, Missouri. This is our pilot episode, our introductory episode, and we are very happy to welcome everyone. We wanted to air live at this beautiful place. This is some place that you can come investigate if you want, and you can see just a view of one room here. It's gorgeous and it is very active. We wanted to try something a little different today. Instead of us telling you what we're interested in and what we think so much, we're interested in what the average person is interested in the paranormal and why they're interested. And so, mixing it up a little bit today, we have some friends here who are not professional investigators, but they have been along to some public tours and events and are very interested in the paranormal. And so we're going to have a discussion between John and I here, who are investigators, and Eileen, Doris, and Harry, who are interested parties. And so we invite everyone to, in this chat room, to throw out your questions. We're happy to answer, and bear with us. We'll do our best today. My name is Lisa Martin, and I'm a co-team leader with PSL.
My name is Jonathan Emmett. I'm an investigator and tech guru for PSL.
Eileen Hall, Doris Berlin,
Harry Wu.
And just to start off, I want to throw out a question to Eileen here. Before you were exposed to paranormal investigations, what did you think a haunted house was? What was your idea?
I envision things flying around. You could ask.
That's what the movies show you, so yeah. We get it.
How about you, Doris?
Basically go along with what the movies used to show when you're growing up as a kid. That's what got me interested in paranormal anyway, was how scary it's supposed to be, the demons and, poltergeist activity and things like that. Yeah, that's what got me interested in it.
What you, Harry?
About seeing a lot of movies, just seeing things flying around.
Okay. And so what's been the most eye-opening thing about going to some of our events that's changed or affirmed that view one way or the other?
Actually experiencing some of it.
We have experienced some unexplained events. I've personally been touched. Doris and I have experienced what sounded like someone hitting the top of a dresser in a bedroom right next to us. Neither one of us were able to touch that dresser. Talking about your experience on the square there in Carthage.
Yeah, and we're walking, Eileen and I, again, were walking the square one Sunday, and we were checking the shops that were around there that were open, and we weren't finding a whole lot, and I saw this one man walk into the shop, opened the door, walked in. He didn't stop and use the key, he just walked in. I said, well, let's go over there, that's where that man is. He went into that door. So we went over there, and the door was locked, and there was nobody there. Yeah, it was dark inside. There was nobody there. And he just kind of like disappeared. I mean, he did not stop and try to open the door with a key. So I know that he just walked in there.
Okay. So the experiences that you've had, how are they different than what you expected from what Hollywood had given you?
Very different.
Not scary at all.
They don't perform on command. You never know from day to day what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also heard voices
Mm-hmm.
in some of the investigations that we've done. And Lisa is a history buff, and when we walk into those investigations, you know just about everything there is to know about that property, and you feel like you know some of these people that are involved in there. So.
Do you think that helps?
It helps.
Yes,
Very much, yeah.
Very much so.
Okay.
Very much
How
so.
about you, Harry? What experience have you had, or you think?
I'm kind of still new to this. Excuse me, new to this. The only thing I've seen so far is a shadow person.
Wow, and when you say the only thing you see is the person,
That's
a
That's
lot of
huge.
people, a lot of people go a long time wanting to see one before they do.
Yeah.
So
And a little bit ago, John seen a light go by through, and I seen the same thing.
Yes,
yeah,
right there.
that happened just right here in the
Yeah,
house.
right here in this house.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What are your feelings about it compared to what you expected?
Well, George was saying that we explained to us what the history of the house and stuff, and know what to expect on there.
And what do you think of the culture that has grown up to make people afraid of the paranormal?
I haven't got any reason to be afraid of it. I find it exciting. Some of the things. I've never had an episode to be scared yet, and I guess maybe that's fine. Nothing is presented itself as evil or demonic or anything toward us, you know. Everything's been really good.
Do you find that the culture has made it more negative overall than your experience?
I think so. Everything you see on TV is demons, and you know.
And that's not to say that there aren't
They're
negative,
not right.
that there aren't negative things out there, but
then they always show the worst.
right.
Well, they need that drama to draw in.
And kind of need to balance it off somehow.
But even aside from TV, how about all the stories over time and everything growing up? Do you think that it's made more scary than it should be?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
The question in the chat room is, how does the group feel about provoking? I can start with that. As a whole, our group does not provoke. We don't believe in it. We think that it can actually cause more bad than good. We try to go into a location with the same feelings that we would go into anybody's home. You know, I wouldn't go in there calling you names. I mean, if you did that to me, I'd probably hit you too. So, I mean, as a whole, our group just we don't provoke, period.
Right.
We try to respect. We find that we get more evidence that way. They'll be more responsive to our efforts. So it's actually just better for us in the long run.
And I can say that over time, I've seen people who have provoked. We've had former members that go down that road, and often, you know, there are repercussions. I mean, you know, I've seen people affected emotionally. I've seen actually a full-grown man knocked on his rear end during an investigation that you couldn't explain. And our philosophy is that this is all energy, and you don't kill energy, you can't destroy it. Matter as well, it gets transformed, and so energy can affect energy. And provoking is just our own arrogance that we can control the situation completely, in my opinion. And unfortunately, there is a climate of sensationalizing that for dramatic effect, and I think it's actually counterproductive for research and results that you get.
I agree.
What do you think about some of the investigative techniques that you've seen done in person?
It's fascinating. The flashlights were our first experience on the first tour that we did with you. And in a room full of people, and you've got flashlights going off and on by themselves. And I think the most impressive for me was in the basement of the Opera House in Carthage. We did, 45 minutes down there with flashlights going on.
And K2 meters.
K2 meters were very active.
I like the K2 meters too, yeah.
And in fact, that setting was setting that there was no power in the building.
Right.
That's correct.
None at all.
Yes. Yes.
So you could account for that. How does that experience compare to you seeing it in person versus watching it on TV?
It's mind-blowing. There's no words to describe that unless you actually experience it. For
Yeah,
yourself.
and you know it's for real and not put on. Or,
Yes.
You know, you actually see it for yourself. You know it's not make-believe TV.
Right. So
You know, you actually are experiencing it. So
That's why
Yeah.
you're seeing it and you hear it, there's nobody else around.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So, what would you say to other people who are sitting out there wondering if they should get involved in going to events with
Go to a
teens?
tour. It's exciting.
And not just us, but
To find
anywhere.
someone like Lisa and Jon that respect the environment they were walking into.
Yeah, I do think that's
Very
important.
guarded and very careful.
I do think that's important that, I encourage people to get involved and to associate with a team. But, just like if you're going to have an investigation, a team's going to ask you a bunch of questions, feel free to talk to them and make sure you're comfortable with their approaches.
I think that it's the group that's given the tour's responsibility to make or keep everyone safe in the tour. So instigating during a tour is just, you're putting all these people else at risk, of getting scratched or hurt or whatever.
Right.
We've seen it, so that's just the way it should be done, in our opinion.
Right, and that's our philosophy when we do investigations, particularly in private homes, is that I think people who go in and aren't respectful, they're asking for trouble, and they're asking for trouble for the client, and because they have to deal with it once you walk out. And it may not be as thrilling for some people, but I think you'll be more satisfied with the results in the end. What did you think your concept of, when you saw orbs and things like that on TV before you did anything?
I really wasn't sure about that because in my mind when I saw them, I thought that's really something, and they're saying, well, that's just us. And I can't say I have seen an orb. I did see a red, I don't know, it was like an orb, but it was going across the floor, and that was our last investigation that we did at the Opera House. That's the closest I've come to seeing anything like that.
But
No, personally, I've never seen one either, but it's interesting. Especially when you see one dart from one side and it comes back to a different angle or something, then what dust would do,
Right, but do you feel like being involved in investigations, it's easier to determine whether it's dust
Right, yeah.
versus other things?
Yes, we've learned a lot, yes.
And what would be your holy grail? What would you like to see?
An apparition.
Well, I was going to say, well, by an apparition, but I've had that happen, but I won't say where.
I would like to see that. That would be
Oh,
my
yeah.
thing.
We had a viewer that thought you were a ghost in the back.
Oh,
Carrie, you have to speak up more. Let's kind of shift there because Barry, you've seen a shadow person, haven't you?
yes, I have.
And was that your first time that you come out?
That was the first time I came out.
Okay. And what was going through your mind?
Well, I was standing there, I had a night vision downloaded to my cell phone, and I'm holding it there, and all of a sudden it keeps falling back and forth. Eileen was standing behind me because
I saw it with them.
And she goes, what's that? I go, I don't know.
You actually got hot photos
Yeah,
of
I got a
it.
photo, yeah.
Well, also, he thought he saw a shadow or a person up in the windows when everybody was outside.
Uh-huh.
This is at the Kendrick house, the same place he saw the
Yeah, that's happened
shadow person.
quite
Yeah.
a few times.
He said,
Yeah.
First of all, I didn't see it,
Standing out
but
back.
yeah, he was saying that he thought there was a person up there, and everybody at that time was outside.
So what was the effect on you after you saw the shadow person? What'd you think?
Very
Exciting.
exciting.
Totally exciting, yeah.
Want to see another one?
Especially when they came 3 or 4 times and didn't hear or see anything. I come the first time. And
Yeah,
I see it.
we hear the
Yeah, I
slapping
kept
of the
peeking
table
around
and
the
stuff, and
corner.
he gets to see the.
Well, in fact, let's set that up just a little bit. That happened at a pre-Civil War house in Carthage. It's called Kendrick House. We do tours there. And it was the site of a lot of activity during the Civil War, including being used as a field hospital. and the original table that was used as an operating table is there. And if I recall right, we were standing around the operating table, and
Somebody's son was laying on the.
right, someone was actually laying on the table, but we were doing an EVP session,
Right.
and if I recall, when this was happening, one of us asked if the doctor was there, and go ahead and tell what you saw.
Asking for a surgeon. They kept saying that they have a soldier on the table with his leg in the table. And they said that about 2 or 3 times, and finally, about the 3rd time is when I seen it come into the doorway.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming that must have been the surgeon.
I guess that would be, we had a question in the chat room of who has the first funny investigation story. Well, I can start off with that one too. In this very house, I fell asleep one night, and one of our other investigators, Misty, thought it would be funny to lay flowers on me while Lisa takes pictures of me. So that's my funny investigation
We
story.
were just testing to see how alert John was.
I was not alert at all at the time. I was unconscious in the chair. Were they lilies? No, they were like red roses. They're probably around here somewhere because it was just outside the door. So
I think there are things that happen on investigations that do get funny, and especially sometimes when you have clients there. Maybe we should tell a story.
we have a tendency to be try to keep upbeat because it's tense for people. Especially if we're doing a private investigation because they're worried anyway. I mean, they obviously called us in for a reason, so we try to stay upbeat about it and just have fun with it. I mean, there's a lot of times we get EVPs and stuff while we're not even talking and trying to make contact. So so we it's just kind of something we do. We're kind of a fun group anyway, I think.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes clients throw things out that really just, skew things and everything.
You're talking about Fort Scott, right?
Yeah. Funny story, we were on a private investigation not too long ago, and very beautiful historic home and pretty active, and the family had been there quite a long time, and we were doing an EVP session in a bedroom, and we were getting responses that would indicate that a grandmother of the owner was present, and sort of flirtatious responses, and John and I were standing next to the bed doing the EVP session, and the owner and her friend were in the room, and suddenly they started backing out of the doorway. And so we're looking around like, what, are they seeing something or what? And then, it's quiet, we're both in thought of what to say next, and suddenly you hear, Grandma was a sex fiend.
Yeah. She didn't even do it like whisper. I mean, she was trying to whisper, and it was like, Grandma was a sex fiend. We're like, It was pretty funny.
To which KT meters started going off.
And to which I will never go back because I'm scared of Grandma.
So, and this was a client that, although embraced the haunting in their house, was nervous and so forth. And so sometimes they almost create the comic relief to break their own nervousness that we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're more effective at it than we are. But
It was scary at the time,
you never know what's coming sometimes.
That's why they're all fun, because they're all different. You never know what to do
Yeah.
at one time.
Exactly. And I think that's one thing too, is for people to realize that it is different every time, and things, what you see on TV often, they've done days and days to get a few minutes worth of footage, and it sometimes, it seems like you have absolutely nothing, and then you have a lot of evidence. I think one of the sort of funny thing too is incident I can think of is we're getting ready to go home one night and from an investigation, and John in fact was talking about being hungry.
Oh, Jared, one of the kids of another group member, Misty's, where and I were talking about going to Waffle House after the investigation, and we actually got an EVP during that time of hungry. So, which is kind of odd. And it kind of makes, puts a new spin on not eating that donut for breakfast. You know, you never know.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently someone was there that was still hungry. I think some of the more interesting things are when you do get interactive responses. Really make you think, make you realize that they are paying attention to what the present is doing and what the live people in the room are doing. Is there anything particular that EV3 have had happen that made you think that they really were aware of exactly what was going on?
At the Olivia house, when we heard the lady say hello.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
And that was on, if I recall right, it's a large apartment building, very luxury apartments from the early 1900s, empty now. There's a lady there that often talks, and was that a time that she was on the staircase?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yeah.
I think we were standing in the hallway.
Yes.
Yeah.
And calling out. What was your thought when you heard that voice?
At first I thought maybe it was one of y'all, but it wasn't. Then I realized it wasn't your voice. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it took a few minutes to sink in what actually happened. Well, no, that wasn't the first one I had heard. But, yeah.
Do you find it disconcerting to hear voices?
No,
It's exciting.
no, it's very exciting.
Very exciting. But we got a lot of responses too that time there at the Opera House downstairs with that little girl,
Mhm.
And it wasn't like hearing the voices, but you still had the interaction with the meter and the lights and stuff, talking and asking questions and getting responses. That went on, like we said earlier, a long time, about 45 minutes, something like that. So that was exciting,
Well, and I think one thing I was going to talk about a little bit are some of the common questions that we get from people, from the public. And
I'm laughing at the chat room, sorry.
And something that we get a lot, people that are concerned about are whether spirits are stuck. And we can give you our views, but I'm kind of curious, Paul, what you think too. I really don't believe that spirits are stuck in one place. Generally.
They're here because of something unfinished.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they're just tethered to one place either.
Well, from things you've said and other people have said, they sound like they can move from one place to another.
They're not
on
limited.
free will. They're not limited like just to this house. They can go next door,
Mm-hmm.
or if there's a reason for them to go there, I guess they want to. But no, I think they can go pretty much wherever they really want. I think.
I think another issue that often comes up, and I think this kind of plays into people's fears, is whether they are unable to cross over to another plane. And our experience really is that they don't seem to experience anxiety or generally a lot of emotion.
No, and it depends. We've had some that seem like they're perfectly content with where they are. I mean, in fact, I can't say that we've come across any since I've been with the team that are wanting to go anywhere else. I mean, honestly. So I don't know. I can't really say that.
Well, I think there may be some that may not be very aware of the fact that they have passed on
That's true.
in a confused state, and perhaps a sudden death, or there's one place that we investigate where there was a massive explosion and a very horrible death, and that spirit is present, has been seen, and EVPs identifying him and indicating that he's confused and not knowing what's going on. But I don't think that's very typical.
No, I don't think so either. I think we've even had what sounds like a girl running through some locations that we've been to. I mean, and we've heard that before, remember, and real close to here actually. And so I mean, it just depends. I really think it's just different. With each entity, you have to handle it differently. So.
I think there's a perception that if they were able to, they would move on or they wouldn't be here. What do you think of that, based on what you've seen? Do you think that's true,
Oh, probably.
I don't know, the jury's still out on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
She's a lawyer.
Sometimes they might think it's a little safer.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, what's familiar?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's sort of human nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how important is the fact that you guys have the ability to go back to locations and do repeatable experiments?
Oh, I think that's a good question. I think it helps a lot. We tend to do a lot of work at historic sites and locations such as the John Weiss House here that we get to come to a lot over and over, and particularly since activity and evidence doesn't happen on command, I think that you build a body of work over time, and places that we've been, some places we've been actually thousands of hours, and it's a puzzle that you put pieces together.
And we found also that if we go to locations more often, that we actually get kind of a rapport with the spirits there, entities there, and that's worked out well for us. I mean, as far as evidence is concerned, and they're more willing to talk to us and respond back and forth.
We've seen that happen.
Yeah.
And they know your name.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that going back and forth is extreme, well, except for this scary grandma. No, I am not going back. I am scarred for life.
Oh, don't let him fool you, he'll be back.
I'll wear a tutu next time, and that way she won't want to hang out with me.
But yeah, I do think it's very, very important, particularly when you're trying to build evidence to convince a broader audience and skeptics. I think that you're able to replicate experiences, you're able to document the same voices multiple times, and we find that often there will be an entity present one time but not another, and so it's hit and miss until you're there a lot. We even find in private home investigations that it usually takes several investigations before you get a clear idea of what's going on. Another point is the research is really important, whether it's a historic site that you can go to the books and the archives and find information about the people who were here and so forth. But a private investigation, you really have to dig into the history of the location, the people who've been there, try to figure out what's happened, or the activity doesn't have any context, it doesn't make any sense. And I think that's one thing that I really would stress to people who are interested in doing this, whether in a team or on their own, is if you're somewhere, you go somewhere and they're trying to investigate, if you don't understand what's happened there in the past, you really don't have any idea what you're getting or why. And it really guides you for things you can do and questions to ask.
And that's actually, yeah, I mean, we've gone to, like, my first time at a private location, may not necessarily be this. You get information that may not make any sense at all. And later down the road, you kind of figure it out. Or even the people that live there look back on it and go, oh, yeah, okay, this is what this was or that was.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, that something will come. What are you
laughing at?
Eileen.
What are you doing?
Save myself.
What were you saying, John?
I don't know. I'm lost. Still messed up with that.
I'm sorry I brought it up.
We'll be able to sleep tonight.
Well, while we sort of regroup our composure, I do encourage anyone that is in the Midwest area, if they're looking for a paranormal experience. There are several locations in Southwest Missouri and Southeast Kansas that you can go to and get a healthy dose of history as well as paranormal activity. PSL manages several locations, and you can contact us through the website and Facebook that's being flashed up there to get tour dates and so forth. But if we have teams out there, we book private investigations at these sites too, and you can come in, do overnights, and we're happy to share information with you so you're not going in blind. And have a really good experience. And all the historic sites that we work with, proceeds go to them to help with preservation efforts. This house, for instance, they're working at renovating the house back to original condition. It looks fantastic as it is, but it does need work, and these events and tours actually go towards those costs, and so you're not only getting a paranormal experience, but you're helping preserve history, and so that's something that's very dear to our heart, and we encourage people to support.
And with Lisa's group, you won't be disappointed.
Well, thank you.
It's wonderful. It really is. We go to every one they have, don't we?
Yeah, you guys pretty much filmed this.
Every one of them.
You missed one. You missed the inaugural on this one.
Yes,
right.
So, but, for a good
There's
reason.
reason,
The next time, just leave him on.
Yeah.
I mean, really, this is more important. Have we done I haven't personally done this one, but has the team done the old James M. Hospital in West City?
No, we haven't, and that's mainly because it's now senior housing.
Yeah, I was thinking that they'd renovated part of it anyway.
Right, but there's history that goes back there a long time. I grew up in Webb City. I know a lot of people who work there. My mother worked there as a secretary to the director of the hospital for a time. And for decades, there's lots of stories and experiences. The morgue was haunted, which often happens in hospitals. But sort of an interesting thing there that I haven't heard in a lot of hospitals was that the operating room was haunted.
Yeah, I've actually heard that too. In fact, I've known people that have, before they renovated it, had gone by there and, said they'd seen things in the doorways and windows, things moving and inside of it. It was closed for a long time. They hadn't done anything with it. So.
Well, even back in when my mother worked there, and this was probably in the early to mid 70s, people would not go in there to clean the operating room by themselves.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
That it was so active that things would happen, and there were stories of implements being thrown across the room, things like that. So the cleaning crew wouldn't go in there. Someone had to be in there just to be with them, and so forth. So definitely would be interested, but I'm just not sure that it's feasible with its current use. You'd have to get permission from the authority, much less all the residents.
Yeah, that would be kind of difficult. Okay, we'd like to hear that interesting experience, Crystal. Why don't you share that? We'll share it on air. It says the only shadow person who's ever seen is in an OR room. We were actually talking about this before the show. I've seen several. I grew up with one, so it kind of got me. Kind of always been interested in it just because of that. I mean, it was never anything that felt malevolent or negative in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I always kind of figured it was either some sort of guardian angel or spirit guide or however you want to talk about it. Even my sister saw it, which I thought was interesting. She gave it a name, George, by the way. So, George, if you're still out there, come say hi anytime.
Well, and I think it's kind of interesting. There's a lot of different theories on what shadow people are. Some people will say that they are innately evil or inhuman.
Right.
And I really,
I don't think that's necessarily true.
no, my impression and sort of in context that I've seen them, they often are in the midst of doing activities, daily routine, that would be what you would expect of the human spirit. And
Well, this one actually just stood in my doorway. I mean, I really almost felt like he was just watching over me. I mean, if anything else, you know, never really creeped me out, which is odd because I wasn't real old at the time. I mean, I wasn't a young kid, but I wasn't that old. And I'm kind of a chicken. If anybody really knows me, I'm kind of a scaredy cat. But this one was.
oh, we talk big.
You'd be scared a little bit.
Hey, yeah, somebody knocked on the door while I was in the bathroom of this place. I thought it was these guys playing a trick on me.
No, it wasn't.
Wasn't us.
And that is something else that happens here. We've heard door slams and things like that here that, you know, there's no one there, you can't explain. Disembodied conversations and so forth, and balls of light. So it's a pretty active place. But you know, I think there are certain places that do tend to have a lot of haunted stories surrounding them. I think hospitals are one place, and just by the nature
Kind
of
of
the
a
beast,
no-brainer, yeah.
yeah, nature of the beast type thing. But you know, there can be activity in places that you're not sure why or whatever. And I know in this area there was so much Civil War activity that, you know, there's places that apparitions are seen, particularly soldiers or whatever, and you can't pinpoint that a skirmish or battle happened here or that kind of thing. But so I think one thing is that it can happen anywhere. And
Sorry, someone in the chat room just said every team needs a redhead.
oh, well, thank you. Thank you. That's so they can find me in the dark.
Found a redhead and founder of Pima. That's funny.
Okay. White chocolate macadamia cookies.
I know, those are mine.
He's making me lose my train of thought.
Are you blushing?
No,
You guys see that on camera?
That was just a reflection off of here. What keeps you guys coming back?
Because you never know what you're going to see the next time you go.
Every
Every time it's different. You may hear
exactly.
like someone slamming the dresser one time, a shadow person the next time, or footsteps, or you just never know what
The
they're
ball
going to
rolling in
experience.
the upstairs
Yeah.
bedroom.
It's never the same
Henry
twice.
House.
It's always something
It's
different.
always different.
Yeah, we don't, you know, you go in there knowing, you know, it's not going to be the same because they don't react the same every single time.
Not only that, but Harry's become our magnet.
Yeah, he's our magnet, so we like to bring Harry. Now, when he showed up, you know, we just got to see a lot more. Yeah, we think he's our magnet, yeah.
You were blaming me earlier for all that.
Yeah, I think Harry's ghost bait.
Yeah.
Just set Harry in a room and see what happens.
Yeah, there you go. We should try that.
I let him touch him and watch him come screaming at her like a girl.
Wow.
It was rough.
You know
I
what?
got your back.
You know, one thing that we actually get asked from time to time are people be worried about coming to tours because they're afraid it's like a spook house at Halloween or something.
No,
Not at all.
And or bringing kids.
No,
we've had a lot of
kids
children.
there. They've never been scared.
Involved with
I've never seen one scared. Yeah.
We had a little girl one time, Alex. Her name was Alex. She was the cutest little thing. I had a Superman shirt on that day, and so did she. So we were best friends the whole time. But, she was right on top of the flashlights like the whole night. And this is at Kendrick House. This is one of, you know, the pretty crazy locations, but
I like it there. It's a good place.
it's pretty cute.
I think kids actually are very receptive, more receptive to things happening than adults. They don't discount
Right.
first thing, I think that these kind of events are good educational experiences. What would you say to that?
Oh, they seem like they really enjoyed it. You know, like the little boy last night with your little one, you know, they were both getting into, you know, talking to the flashlights or the kids meters and everything, you know, and the recorder and everything, and trying to get everything to light up. They were having a blast.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then they were taking the infrared and walking around and trying to see what they
Yeah, that was
could see.
pretty cute last night. It just kind of took over. We were kind of done, taking a little break, and they're over there still investigating.
Yeah.
You ready to say that?
Yeah, they were enjoying themselves.
All right. That was a serious
Future
question.
investigators.
Yeah, really. When doing a client-based investigation, do you like the clients there or ask them to leave?
Well, it can cut both ways. And to be honest, we never tell a client they can't be there. And what we usually do is we give them a thorough rundown of what we do, what to expect, and there are those that want to be right there and know exactly what's going on, not out of a suspicious viewpoint, but because they're very interested.
Truly interested, yeah.
On the other hand, there are those that say no, they don't want to be there, and we really let them decide, because usually, to be perfectly honest, my experience is they have a better feel for that than we do going in. And sometimes we've gone in and they don't want to be there the first time, and we do a follow-up investigation after they have an idea of what we got the first time, then they do want to be there. We do try to, be a little more firmer about no pets there, and generally you don't want children there. On a private investigation, at least until you figure out what's going on. But we try not to dictate that, because, again, they have to live in that environment,
right.
and they're the ones that have to assimilate and accept whatever the findings are. And we walk out and go to the next investigation. They're still there dealing with what we found. So we really try to honor their wishes there.
Kim, that's actually a really good point. That's actually what I was going to say, is that the spirit may actually be attached to that client, and they're used to them. It's sort of like us going into locations more than once.
Mm-hmm.
With a mouse suppressor flip. And it's sort of like us being in these locations more than once. That person's there, so the spirit entity will feel comfortable. If we go in there by or without them, it's very likely that they won't talk to us the first time, unless it's a residual thing and just saw a shadow walk across the room.
And we've had that happen here.
Yeah,
You're watching.
Yeah, it was real quick. It went kind of by the Christmas tree. But anyway, so yeah, I mean that's generally they're there for the most part on the private ones that I've been on. We did do it once without that person for a whole other reason, but so that's my opinion. I agree with you 100%.
And sometimes that comes down to what the activity is. Sometimes the activity, if it really does seem to be centered around one person, one family member, and if they are comfortable with it, often we will say have them there the first time and maybe have them not there the next time and see if it affects what happens.
Right.
And so it really tends to be very specific. One case I can think of from several years ago, the activity really centered on a small child, and he was about 2.5 or 3 years old, and the family lived there for several years before he was born. But after he was born, activity really kicked up, and as he got to where he could start to talk, he started talking to and about an unseen person there, and named the person, etc. And at first they thought it was an imaginary friend, and it was very playful, he was happy, and so forth. And then it turned that he was wary and unhappy and didn't want to be where, I believe he called him Mitchell, where Mitchell was, and would start watching the corner of the room and talking to him and telling him not to come over. And it kind of escalated to the point that the child was in a toddler bed, and the way it sat, the mattress was recessed in, and the parents got woken up one night with a big clash and thud, and went in there, and the baby is sitting in the middle of the floor, and the mattress is flipped out of the bed. And there was absolutely no way this child could have even gotten out of bed and raised it up, much less pulled it out. And so we did an investigation initially with the family there, with the child there, and then we did another one a week later with the child gone, but the parents there. And there was a big difference in the evidence that we caught that indicated that whatever was there was kind of fixated on the child. So, you kind of have to evaluate it based on particular circumstances. Just educated guess. So, again, one thing that I do want to stress that anyone out there that is interested in private investigations, we'll be happy to set you up some historic sites. We've got this beautiful old Victorian home here in Joplin, Missouri. We encourage you also, there's a beautiful Victorian over in Galena, Kansas that you can go through on day tours to. That was actually an old bordello that you can go through. We also do tours at the Civil War home Kinderhouse in Carthage, Missouri. And we do downtown ghost walks and investigations and tours at the old Opera House in Carthage. And that's kind of interesting because we really do give you the history of that area, including a lot of Civil War history, and you hear tales of hauntings in a lot of buildings in that area. We do that again. The proceeds are donated to preservation for the Opera House. So we encourage everyone to come out. I think that there's value to supporting small sites. We all have sort of dream spots that we'd like to investigate around the world. Yeah. The famous ones, and I've been to a few myself, like Waverly Hills, etc. But to be perfectly honest, I think that in comparison, a lot of the more active places are small places that a lot of people have never heard of, and that if you seek them out, you'll probably get a better personal experience than at some of these large, famous locations.
I think she's talking about. Have you ever heard or have any information about a haunted area north of Galena on Lost? No, it's not Lost Dime Road. It's
Oh yeah, I know where.
Oh, what's the name of that road?
It starts with an F.
And I think you're talking about Devil's Promenade. Is that correct?
Well, that's not Devil's Promenade.
No,
Boston
that's
Mill.
north of Galena. Oh, yeah,
No.
north of Galena. What's north of Galena?
Boston Mill.
Maybe Boston Mill. Is that what you're talking about?
Or are you just talking about the Empire City?
North of Galena. Crosses over Spring River.
Spring River South.
Yeah.
Spring River South.
Talking about.
Morse Mills. Okay, yeah, that's actually on the other side of Missouri, more on the St. Louis side. I haven't been there, but I do know a couple of investigators that have. Devil's Promenade actually it's close kind of. Sometimes people get them confused. The Spook Light south of Joplin was by a little hamlet called Hornet. So it originally was the Hornet spook light, then the Tri-State spook
Actually,
light.
and you can actually go more west
Mm-hmm.
and a little south I used to live just off of Spook Light Road, so the Devil's Promenade is probably 5 miles or so more east, roughly.
No,
I
maybe
don't think it's 5 miles.
I'd say 2 miles. Maybe.
Somewhere.
It's a couple miles away, but it's actually on Spring River, and actually the promenade is a big granite feature. That there's a bridge for the road that goes across there right next to it, and that cliff was ceremonial land for the local Indians for at least a couple of hundred years.
Yeah, there's still a cemetery up there.
Yeah, there is an Indian cemetery there. But the Indian legends are that they used it for various sacred ceremonies, and an Indian chief was beheaded there, different things. And so there's a lot of tales that the spook light is actually connected to some of the paranormal activity that happens at the Devil's Promenade. The bridge itself then ultimately has legends that when it was a wooden bridge that you could cross it and hear hoofbeats, and the legend became that it was the devil crossing the bridge, and that you could summon him in different ways.
The old bridge actually isn't there anymore, though.
No.
They tore it down when I was a pup.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's gone, but that's where it developed, and then there's still tales that even on the new bridge that you can summon the devil, but that's different. But it's a very interesting area.
Yeah, the spook light was actually up, Crystal, the spook light was actually up in my pasture one morning. It was pretty funny because I was walking up to go fishing in one of our ponds, and I just happened to notice that it was in the pasture bouncing around, and I looked down to my bottom right, and there was a coyote about yay far from my leg, and he had no idea I was there, so I screamed boo at him. His butt kind of went through his head, and he took off.
Not sure who startled who.
Yeah, I don't know who startled who more. It was pretty funny. So, yeah, it is pretty interesting. I really never, I believe quite a few of the theories on it because really nobody knows. So,
I to be honest, I think it has something to do with Earth energy, because there are Earth type lights like that around the world.
right.
And but I mean, it was documented back in the 1830s in the Trail of Tears, so it's certainly been there a long time, and isn't the sort of the skeptical theory is that it's lights from the highway, etc. And it certainly wasn't in the 1830s. So, and I've seen it several times. So I mean, it doesn't look anything like that, or swamp gas.
Swamp gas.
The prevalent
It's
things.
not swamp gas.
No.
There's no swamp.
Yeah, there's not a swamp for 100 miles, so that's kind of hard. But that's certainly, I mean, there's other areas in that area that maybe we'll get into in another show that have a lot of legends just in a few mile radius of there. So it certainly is a sort of a natural area that seems to have amplified activity. Not necessarily that you feel, a presence or anything, but there's certainly something unusual going on. We are getting close to out of time.
Yeah, we're about
And we want to thank everyone for tuning in. We welcome you back next week, and we hope to make this a fun experience for people to have an open discussion, and not for us just to be here talking heads. So please check out our Facebook page, Paranormal Science Lab, our website, paranormalsciencelab.com, and please feel free to email or message questions or topics you'd like to see us talk about. And we're going to have something fun that we're actually going to pick viewers from time to time to be guests. So let us know if you're interested. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for tuning into our first show here. Like Lisa said, if you have any questions, any ideas, anything you'd like to share with us, mine is JON@paranormalsciencelab.com. Lisa's is Lisa at Paranormal. I mean, we're pretty straight across the board there. We also have one that's info@paranormalsciencelab.com, so if you just got a general question or whatever, you're welcome to share that with us, and looking forward to it.
And we want to thank our guests tonight, Eileen, Doris, and Harry. They've been great sports tonight, and I hope they enjoyed it.
Oh, immensely.
And maybe you'll be back with us in the future. Oh, okay. Cal for stalking us. So thank you very much, and we're signing off from Paranormal Science Lab. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Question to Eileen here. Before you were exposed to paranormal investigations, what did you think a haunted house was? What was your idea?
I envision things flying around. You could actually.
That's what the movies show you, so yeah. We get it.
How about you, Doris?
Basically go along with what the movies used to show when you're growing up as a kid. That's what got me interested in paranormal anyway, was how scary it's supposed to be, the demons and, poltergeist activity and things like that. Yeah, that's what got me interested in it.
What about you, Harry?
About seeing a lot of movies, just seeing things flying around.
Okay. And so what's been the most eye-opening thing about going to some of our events that's changed or affirmed that view one way or the other?
Actually experiencing some of it.
We have experienced some unexplained events. I've personally been touched. Doris and I have experienced what sounded like someone hitting the top of a dresser in a bedroom right next to us. Neither one of us were able to touch that dresser. Talking about your experience on the square there in Carthage.
Yeah, and we're walking, Eileen and I, again, were walking the square one Sunday, and we were checking the shops that were around there that were open, and we weren't finding a whole lot, and I saw this one man walk into the shop, open door, walk in. He didn't stop and use the key, he just walked in. I said, well, let's go over there, that's where that man is. He went into that door. So we went over there, and the door was locked, and there was nobody there. Yeah, it was dark inside. There was nobody there. And he just kind of disappeared. I mean, he did not stop and try to open the door with a key. So I know that he just walked in there.
Okay. So the experiences that you've had, how are they different than what you expected from what Hollywood had given you?
Very different.
Not scary at all.
They don't perform on command. You never know from day to day what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also heard voices
Mm-hmm.
in some of the investigations that we've done. And Lisa is a history buff, and when we walk into those investigations, you know just about everything there is to know about that property, and you feel like you know some of these people that are involved in this. So.
Do you think that helps?
It helps.
Yes,
very much. Yeah,
very much so.
Okay.
Very much
How
so.
about you, Harry? What experience have you had, or anything?
I'm kind of still new to this. Excuse me, new to this. The only thing I've seen so far is a shadow person.
Wow, and when you say the only thing you've seen is a shadow person,
That's big.
a lot of people go a long time wanting to see one before they do.
Yeah.
So
And a little bit ago, John seen a light go by through, and I seen the same thing.
Yes,
yeah,
right there.
that happened just right here in the house, Weiss House in Joplin, Missouri. This is our pilot episode, our introductory episode, and we are very happy to welcome everyone. We wanted to air live at this beautiful place. This is some place that you can come investigate if you want, and you can see just a view of one room here. It's gorgeous and it is very active. We wanted to try something a little different today. Instead of us telling you what we're interested in and what we think so much, we're interested in what the average person is interested in the paranormal and why they're interested. And so mixing it up a little bit today, we have some friends here who are not professional investigators, but they have been along to some public tours and events and are very interested in the paranormal. And so we're going to have a discussion between John and I here, who are investigators, and Eileen, Doris, and Harry, who are interested parties. And so we invite everyone to, in this chat room, to throw out your questions. We're happy to answer, and bear with us. We'll do our best today. My name is Lisa Martin, and I'm a co-team leader with PSL.
My name is Jonathan Emmett. I'm an investigator and tech guru for PSL.
Eileen Hall.
Doris Berlin.
Harry Wood.
And just to start off, I want to throw out a question. Hello, welcome to Paranormal Science Lab Live. We are coming to you from the beautiful Jon.
Here in this house.
Right. What are your feelings about it compared to what you expected?
Well, Doris was saying that we explained to us what the history of the house and stuff, and I know what to expect on there.
And what do you think of the culture that has grown up to make people afraid of paranormal?
I haven't got any reason to be afraid of it. I find it exciting. Some things. I've never had an episode to be scared yet. I guess maybe that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is presented itself as evil or demonic or anything toward us, you know. Everything's been really good.
Do you find that the culture has made it more negative overall than your experience?
I think so. Everything you see on TV is demons, and you know.
And that's not to say that there aren't
They're not right.
that there aren't negative things out there, but
they always show the worst.
right.
Well, they need that drama to draw in.
And you need to balance it off somehow.
But even aside from TV, how about all the stories over time and everything growing up? Do you think that it's made more scary than it should be?
Yes.
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 The question in the chat room is, how does the group feel about provoking? I can start with that. As a whole, our group does not provoke. We don't believe in it. We think that it can actually cause more bad than good.